Hello, my name is Diane Schuster. In this demonstration, I'm going to show you how to configure an SSIS package that uses the derived column transformation in conjunction with COZYROC's Dataflow Task Plus. It's a simple scenario. There's only a single source and destination pair, and the source will be OLEDB and the destination will be Excel. There's also only a single derived column. So I'm going to start by dragging the Dataflow Task Plus onto the control flow canvas. And I'll go in to configure the properties. I right mouse clicked on the task, go to properties, and I'm going to set delay validation to true. I'm going to go over to the Dataflow canvas, and I'll find the OLEDB source, drag that onto the canvas, and we'll choose the actual table that I'll be using. So here's the source information, and we'll take a quick preview of this. And I want to show you owner is the column that I'll be using for my derived column expression. So I'm going to be adding comma junior after each of the owner names. And we'll close the regular editor, and I right mouse click on the component and go to show advanced editor. I'll go to component properties and change validate external metadata to false. Now I go to the column mappings, and I need to remove all of the mappings here first before I can delete all the static columns. So now I go over to input and output properties. I open external columns and output columns. I'll change the first column name to thunk_column, and then remove the rest of the static columns. I'll do the same thing under the output columns. And there are no other columns that we need to remove. Now I go back to column mappings, and I need to manually map the thunk column in the external columns to the thunk column in the output columns. Now we'll find derived column, drag that onto the canvas. I'll open up the editor, and I'm going to drag the thunk column down here to define my first and only derived column. So if I were to leave this saying derived column 1, that column would get added to my destination, and I don't want that. So I'm going to just fill in thunk column. And then here I'm going to just change it to replace thunk column, the expression. None of this matters except that we want to make sure we don't use any other column names anywhere in here except for thunk_column. We don't want any statically defined columns showing up here. So, and here you can see that the precision, scale, and code page don't even have anything in them. The length, it put 250 in there. I'm not going to worry about that. Or the data type, I don't really care, because that'll all be taken care of at execution time by Dataflow Task Plus. And now I'll finish the Dataflow configuration by getting the Excel Destination Plus and dragging it onto the canvas. I'll open up the regular editor and choose the connection manager for it. The file does not actually exist, so it's only going to offer me sheet 1, which is fine with me. There you can see the only column defined is thunk column. it got that from the two components above it. So, oh, we forgot. Now we need to open up either Properties or Show Advanced Editor. I'll just go to Properties and set Validate External Metadata to false. I could do that from the Advanced Editor too. Now I'm going to go back to the Control Flow Canvas, and now we'll open up the Task Editor for Dataflow Task Plus. And there's the source. We're going to enable dynamic capabilities for that. We'll enable dynamic capabilities for the destination and also for the transformation. Now that we've enabled those capabilities for the transformation, you can see we now have another property that shows up here, derived configuration variable. So this has to be an object type variable, which we already had set up. It's a derived column underscore config. And you can see that variable right down here. And now we're going to need to put something in that variable, which will be all the configuration information for our derived column transformation. So I'm going to use the execute SQL task to do that. Before I open up the editor for that task, I'm going to go over to Management Studio and show you that table that we're going to be using. So here you can see the data that looks very similar to what we set up in derived column, or at least it looks like the same properties. We just don't need the initial property that's in there. I think it's called derived column name. So we start with the result column, and that's going to be owner. And then here's the expression. So it's owner plus junior. And then there's the data type for that column. And then we left length, precision, scale, and code page all just set to 0, or we set them to 0, because Dataflow Task Plus will take care of that for us. And as far as determining whether you want to overwrite the existing column data or create a new column for the derived column, Dataflow Task Plus figures that out based on your expression is using the owner column. If I had a different name for the result column, like owners or owner2 or something, it would know it needs to create a new column for the derived column. So I'm going to copy this select statement from here and use that in the execute SQL task. So now I'll open up the task editor, and I'm going to choose full result set here. And then I'm going to choose the connection that points to the config table. And here's where I'm going to paste in that SQL statement or select statement. And then I'll go over to result set and add a row. And this is the first result, and it goes into the dc_config variable. And if I had multiple rows in the table, of course it would load all of those rows, and those you would put in a row for each of the derived columns that you want for this specific source and destination pair. So now I just connect the arrow, and we should be ready to execute. And it was successful, so I'll stop debugging. And I'll go show you the file that was just created. And here, if we expand the owner column, you can see junior was added to the end of each of those. If you'd like to follow COZYROC on social media, here's how you would do that. Thank you for watching.